Hey, this is Notser, and we're talking dive bombers. Why dive bombers? Well, this ship on my screen, the Tier 8 aircraft carrier for the German Navy, the Graf Zeppelin, is going to be potentially losing the 3 torpedo squadrons for 3 dive bomber squadrons. It's being tested right now on the public test server, 6.9 super testers. I don't have access to this. However, I could talk about it because guess what? Nobody stops me from this. And I want to talk about it because I've got friends who enjoyed the game long ago, enjoyed the aircraft carrier playstyle. It was nerfed into the ground by doing something very similar. You know what? Let's take away the 2 torpedo squadrons that the Midway gets, and let's give them 1. But let's give them dive bombers, yeah. And now they're a piece of shit. And I'm obviously comparing it to the original version. The original version was clearly broken. Being able to one-shot every single ship in the game is dumb. Do you know what else has that? Oh, let's not get into that one. However, they changed it. Their compensation is dive bombers. We're going to make the dive bomber feel better for the Americans. And I'm still waiting for that, honestly. Dive bombers are real shit. They just are. And the reason they're really crappy to play as is because they rely so much on RNG. So much on RNG. And it's offensive that Wargaming still hasn't fixed the problem. So that's my real core problem with this entire adjustment, is that you would swap out 3 torpedo bombers, which is very effective at killing everything. Good layering, all that stuff, high damage, very resilient in my opinion. I mean, look at me, okay? I don't play aircraft carriers near enough, and I'm having a lot of success dictating a lot in a game with this particular ship. I get it, I understand. But you're giving it dive bombers and nobody's going to buy it. I've already read tons of posts. Oh, well, it turned a ship from a must-buy to why bother? And that's really unfortunate. Wargaming. Isn't the whole goal of this is to build something that feels fun to play, effective, rewards skill, but is able to be countered? Now, I don't know that that last stipulation existed on this version of the Graf Zeppelin. Most aircraft carrier success or failure really just is on, does your team play the objective correctly? Even if you're really good, you still require players that are playing the objective or whatever. So, from a dictating the success or fail, I don't really think it's there, but absolutely, this change to dive bombers is going to make players just not want to play them because it's just not fun rolling a dice all the time. There are millions and millions and millions of games that have dice rolling that I could choose to do at any time. There's hundreds of thousands of things that, oh, rely on a dice roll, rely on a dice roll. Why do you try and just keep this without really addressing the core issue? Make dive bombers less reliant on RNG. Give them the same success enhancement that a good manual drop torpedo bomber has. A good aircraft carrier captain should be able to do just as much as a battleship, I know, heresy, a cruiser, or a destroyer. And it's not going to happen with 3 dive bombers. You are basically going to, the only legit strategy for 3 dive bombers is you drop an initial to set a fire, you wait the 20 seconds, and then you drop the other 2. And all you're going to do is just aggravate people who have to deal with dots. Or you do that same drop, you don't get any fires, or even worse, you don't get any bombs to hit near the target. There's too much RNG there. Do you see how many numbers have to roll for it to be in your favor? Only one of them has to fail as a dive bomber for you to just say, fuck it, I'm going to play something else. And it shouldn't be that way. I enjoy torpedo dynamics of a destroyer. I enjoy the gun system. Smoke, hydro, speed boost, whatever. All of that is really enjoyable to play. There's not a lot of RNG inherently with each of those systems. comparatively to the dive bomber. But you're asking a player, you have to roll an RNG for the aircraft to survive the attack. You've got to roll RNG for when you actually get close to the target and you get into your attack reticle. You've got to roll RNG for if you light the target on fire or not. If you don't light the target on fire, you might as well not have drop at all. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Wargaming. So, let's fix the real issue, and maybe people wouldn't be frustrated that you are potentially changing the identity of a ship that no one's played. I love the comments. The ship's not out yet. What is there to talk about? What is there to talk about? It's gonna be out, and the whole idea is to inform you what real players feel about each mechanic, and nobody likes the way dive bombers work right now. Friend, foe, aircraft carrier, all the targets, nobody likes the way dive bombers work right now. I had a game with a dive bomb where I dropped on this destroyer and I one-shot him. All the bombs rolled and they were extremely tight. They all hit the target. He was gone. Just like that. 10, 15,000 damage. Gone. And that's a 1 in a 10, 1 in 20, 1 in 30, 1 in 40 chance that that's going to happen. Most of the time for the dive bomb, you drop on the destroyer and every single one misses. And then you have to send it all the way back to your aircraft carrier and you got to do it all over again. Yeah, Wargaming, that's just wonderful. I love it. I hate it. It's part of the reason why I haven't done anything with my American aircraft carriers, and it's really the reason why the Japanese are dominant versus the Americans. They have 2 torpedoes, whereas the Americans rely on dive bombers. You can't consistently be good if you rely on RNG. I really want to challenge anyone who thinks otherwise. It's just, there's too much RNG in dive bombers. Don't attach the dive bombers to this without a solution to the massive RNG that is dive bombers. Otherwise, most people will not be buying this ship. Most people will be saying to themselves, well, at least I could save my money for something that I do want to spend money on, maybe a premium British battleship. So it's just a lost sale. Wargaming, I'm sorry. Is this going to be the first premium aircraft carrier that is predominantly dive bombers? If they go this route, I would love to see the sales figures when they do this. Wouldn't you? Because you've got the Kaga, the Saipan, you've got all these different ships that either have multiple loadouts or they are predominantly torpedo, and then they're potentially going to be doing this all dive bomber build, and I would just be curious to see the sales figures for it. I really would. Maybe the initial sale is high and then it drops off. You know, I would just love to see the play hours for the American aircraft carriers versus the Japanese. I know they have it. I know they see that the Japanese aircraft carriers generally have a higher play rate. Generally, Japanese aircraft carriers keep their captain population. I know they have all the stats. I know they do. I've talked to Wargaming employees. I know they have a lot of very specific stats that they don't want people to know. And it's just unfortunate. I want Wargaming to succeed. We know this has been a problem for a very long time. And yet they still feel like, oh, you know, statistically it's great. Everyone's happy. Stats don't tell you everything. When people are playing something, do they get a good feeling from it? I think too many companies rely on just purely stats to dictate whether they continue to do something or change it. And that's dangerous when you're trying to ask players to spend money, tell us how you feel, do you enjoy it, what do you want to see change? You know, for me, I felt like the Japanese torpedoes didn't need to be nerfed into the ground. For me, I really enjoyed using my torpedoes almost exclusively for the Japanese. But my opinion didn't matter when you nerfed them into the ground. For me, I don't enjoy playing against a lot of Soviet destroyers because, quite frankly, they feel really, really cheap. But I guess my opinion doesn't matter. But hey, The stats say that they have a 54% win rate, a 53% win rate. They're right where we want them. Yeah, but they're shit. They're shit to play against. They feel real crappy to control because there's only one viable way to play it. Hopefully they don't go through with the full dive bomber change. Maybe they sub out one torpedo for a dive bomber. I could see that as a more reasonable change versus just straight up taking away all the torpedo fun. Let's hope that they just use this as a testing opportunity and it isn't the final form. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.